Panyaza Lesufi, Premier of Gauteng, about to give his maiden speech, of course, the State of the Province address. We were talking with our various reporters just about the high levels of expectations from this address. You know, Gauteng, as we know, has battled to deliver basic services, you know, to the residents in the recent years. And Panyaza has made a lot of promises when he was appointed, of course, you know, saying that he is going to be looking at the mismanagement of finances, particularly in the big metros, and also, of course, you know, undertaking that crime levels in the country, you know, I mean, in the province is high, and making certain utterances there in terms of how to make sure that they combat crime. And of course, another big one is unemployment. As we've just heard, unemployment in this province sitting at 33.7%. What are some of your key focus issues that you think that Premier Lesufi should be prioritizing, you know, during this address?
He indeed has made a lot of promises, and there are a lot of expectations from him. He needs to talk about resuscitating the economy of the province. That should be able to absorb the young graduates, and he must also put an emphasis, I know it's going to be quite difficult, on service delivery issues. The biggest challenge that he faces also is that even though he might talk about issues relating to service delivery, he's not in charge of a number of municipalities in the province. So he must also talk about how, as a provincial government, he's going to create that relationship between the provincial and local government in Gauteng. And what I would expect, it's a harmonious relationship between the provincial government and local government, and the main focus being the service delivery that ordinary citizens quite need. More importantly, he has to talk about crime in Gauteng. People are complaining on a daily basis, and the reports that we get about crime are quite worrying. So you need the Premier to touch on those important issues.
Now, of course, you know, we've seen in recent months also residents, you know, of the province being very angry around the issue of illegal immigration. And that ties in with what you're saying in terms of just the high levels of unemployment in the province. And so the anger has really been directed at that, what the province is doing and what, of course, the country is doing around those issues. Now, another, of course, important, you know, we were talking about just some of the promises that he's made. To date, we haven't seen any of those come to light as yet. But one of the things that he has spoken about is the refurbishment of hospitals. I mean, we've seen how major hospitals in this province have really been left in dire straits, you know, some of them having no basic, you know, water services, and some of them having no electricity. He said that he will be allocating around 650 million to the creation of, you know, spaza shops, but also pharmaceutical entities also needing, you know, important resources there. I mean, what will it take for him? You know, of course, at the moment he's being called, is he the Messiah? Is he the savior of Gauteng? What will it take for him to make sure that those promises actually see the light of day?
Issues relating to health in South Africa generally and in Gauteng are not new. And we have had these issues being spoken about from 1994 up until today. And the worrying factor is that instead of seeing an improvement, we're actually seeing a decline. And I think if Panyaza has to be taken seriously, he has to provide change that is visible, especially in ensuring that the health sector in the province is getting priority. I know there are other issues relating to proper skills, issues relating to other departments having to come in. But I think if you need to have a strong nation, you need to focus on the health so that these people don't have many other issues to complain about because they'll be in a very, very good state of health.
What about crime in as far as corruption is concerned? I mean, we know that, of course, during the recent flooding, a number of infrastructure has been damaged in Gauteng, which therefore freed up the need for a state of a nation, a disaster, to be released. And of course, when we talk about those funds under that umbrella, there's a lot of questions in terms of how will they be managed. There's a lot of talk about, increasing some form of elements of crime and corruption, infiltrating there. So he's always been talking big, against corruption and making sure that funds are allocated adequately. What are some of the things that he will then need to do there?
Well, I think he has to turn the entire province around. The floods have actually damaged a lot of infrastructure in Gauteng, and you therefore need the government that will be able to stand in and ensure that they equal the task. But equally, it is also correct that based on our history, some of the people would love to take advantage of the state of the disaster and start utilizing the resources for personal gains. And you also need government that will always be prepared to take action against such people. And that is exactly what we'll love to hear the Premier putting an emphasis on again.
Absolutely. And of course, those are visuals coming live to you there from inside the Johannesburg City Hall, where Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, is expected to deliver his maiden address, the State of the Province address. One of the things that we talk about, and I want to go back to revisiting the high levels of unemployment. We know, of course, that load shedding has really impacted, what we are currently seeing today. I mean, we saw not too long ago that front page cover of the Sowetan where, of course, they featured, businesses that have closed down in the country. But of course, we know that many of those, are from Gauteng. What are some of the issues then, looking at what, President Cyril Ramaphosa has said in terms of the energy crisis in his SONA address? What then should Gauteng be focusing on?
Well, I think Gauteng has to link its own strategy to the national strategy. With the introduction of the new Minister of Electricity, my expectation would be how then this new minister is to outline his or her programs in relation to dealing with electricity. But equally, you need provinces or provincial leaders that are creative, that are innovative, that must be saying, apart from what national government can do, and apart from what ESCOM can do, we can still be able to develop programs that are actually going to address the challenges of electricity. Other provinces have actually started doing. So you would expect Gauteng to say, this is our plan to fight load shedding, and this is what ordinary citizens should expect. Equally, there should be that collaboration between the electricity ministry and the different provinces so that there is proper alignment.
Of course, any moment now, we will be hearing from him, from the Premier of Gauteng. Just in terms for you, the top 3 priorities. I mean, it is very difficult for him to come in, and especially if he's going to be looking at local government, to try and fix anything in the next couple of months, particularly as you look at the next election. But it is, we know, the primary focus. But what for you do you think he needs to then undertake, as we are looking at local government, at the state of affairs currently? What should he be looking at? And I'm saying this because we also know that semigration within the country is at an all-time high, where people are actually moving to areas in which they can survive, because Gauteng has become, to many residents, unattainable to live in.
My view is that the Premier has to develop better strategies of collaboration between the provincial and local government. Wherever support is required at local government level, you need that kind of support to be provided by the provincial government. There are instances where you would have other political parties in charge of municipalities elsewhere. It does not matter which party is in charge, but you require that level of intergovernmental relations so that ordinary citizens on the ground are not supposed to suffer. Equally, the different local spheres of government should also develop ways and means to cooperate and work together with the provincial government in the best interests of the ordinary citizens on the ground. And I expect that to be a priority for him. The challenges in Tshwane, the challenges in Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, are the challenges that the provincial government should be able to find ways and means to deal with. He has been personally very central in dealing with conflicts in these municipalities. I expect him to do that with more authority now. That is the Premier of the province.
And of course, there were several suggestions even coming out of this province, from the MEC of Cooperation, saying that as you are speaking about coalition governments, etc., for them to work, you need some type of regulated structure in place. What would that look like?
Well, I think there is a discussion that is going on. The Democratic Alliance and BUSA appear to be in a conflict of words based on how they feel coalitions are supposed to be structured. And my view is that this should be an ongoing discussion, but it must come to an end. What would work, in my view, is that you need something that is quite regulated, clear guidelines that have to be created, so that those that are the participants in coalitions should know what is expected of them, what they're supposed to do, and what they're not supposed to do. At the same time, you need a situation where there is punishment for those who violate the agreements in the coalitions. And my view is that that might provide some solutions to coalitions.
All right, we're about to wrap up the show, but very quickly, just on some of those priorities, and I like what you said in terms of accountability that needs to happen. A lot of hope, though, is placed on him because we know how he handled the education department as an example, within this province under David Makhura. What are some of the things that can quickly separate him from that past legacy to his future legacy now?
Well, I think the energy that he portrayed in education is the same energy that we need now. I know there are a lot of people who are saying that he might actually be lost in education and this responsibility might be bigger. I don't think so. My view is that the team that he has assembled should be able to share in his vision, do what is expected of them, and where necessary, he should be able to remove those who don't seem to be performing, but support those that are performing. That is the simple role of the Premier.
Dr. Levy, Ndou, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate your analysis right here in studio.